I made a post on bsky on who I should do next, and the choice was obvious. Fish, or f158, is one of my OCs, and she is a bioweapon. A biological weapon, aka something created with biological stuff to become a weapon. She was created during a very religious wave that had begun to sink its teeth into New Orleans in the early 1800s. With the corporation that I've mentioned in my kid video called Moon Zero. Now, in this universe, Moon Zero, who was not as corrupt back then, lost the leader that made it not corrupt, Kali, who initially started Moon Zero as a cousin of Star Labs that was more focused on genetics with hybrids and supernatural and how that would work compared to like humans and everything like that. And they'd be researching all of that for science purposes without actually harming it. But as Kali became older, and she has a wife at this point as well, she began to realize she wanted to spend her days with her wife and not as a businesswoman, because she'd had her own pretty darn hard childhood and she wanted to enjoy her days with her wife, you know? Which was fun. So she left, another person came to power, and they were already insanely religious with the belief of old Christianity, like the rapture, Jesus, all that sort of like old religious stuff. And I'm gonna put a trigger warning here because I will be speaking about religion with fish. It's not gonna be as prevalent as with my other character Loki, but it will be prevalent and important for the story. So as Moon Zero goes through the 1600 to 1800, I think is where it starts. The timeline has been going back and forward because I've been developing fish for quite a while, and there has been versions of her that I wasn't really satisfied with, but I included as other parts of the lore, as fish isn't the only version of herself, which I'll explain later. Moon Zero became more and more corrupt to the point where they thought that the next step in evolution to trigger the rapture, to trigger them all going up to heaven, was evolving humans, and they began to experiment with viruses. They'd already been in the black market for a bit, selling their research on the black market and small weapons and stuff like that, but they had never done something this big. And it proved how incompetent they were, because the minute that virus was tested on a couple of people, it got out of hand. And in 10 days, the entire city was infected. And it became absolute chaos. The virus itself was administered through anything that led directly to the blood. It was a blood virus that was brain died. It was a blood virus, and fish comes in at this point. Protocol Fish, Protocol F158, is her official, like, quote-unquote official name, because she's a bioweapon. She doesn't really have a human name. Was created as a part of a large experiment on targeting specific individuals with said virus. And there were many versions of her, which all of them failed. Even fish failed, so it wasn't supposed to be released, but they wanted to do a test drive with her and a couple of her siblings, quote-unquote. This goes on for weeks of fish being controlled and told to go after individual people, until fish is injured in battle. It's a quote-unquote battle, like the struggle with another person who she was supposed to infect, leaving her wounded and picked up by survivors. Now this part I've not completely fully sketched out, but the draft of it is that she meets Phi, which is an old OC of mine, a survivor of the virus, and as as they become like closer and closer, and she begins to understand that what she did wasn't right, and what they told her wasn't true, that she'd just been killing people, she began to feel distraught, because in her eyes she thought she was helping. She is a very like people pleaser. She thought she was helping people, and helping them ascend was like some big journey and some big important like task that she alone was like, they'd done this entire like manipulative tactic of like telling her that she's a chosen one, etc, etc. She will help them bring peace to the human earth, etc, etc. And then done a bunch of that bullshit, and they told her that she was supposed to be able to help with that. And when she realized the truth and she realized the damage she'd done, she began to plan her way back into Moon Zero to kill the employees, to end the virus and the apocalypse. Fish is one character I've had a really hard time writing because partially she's a bioweapon. She doesn't really have emotions or feelings or drive or anything like that. So I had to like pluck out small things that I like and just add that to her character. And although this is very inspired by Resident Evil, I am a huge fan of Resident Evil. All people on my YouTube channel will probably remember me speedrunning and doing no-hit challenges with Resident Evil Village, which is my favorite. I was also gonna do Madhouse difficulty, but holy fuck, that's hard, so no, we're not doing that. But it's very inspired by The Umbrella, with my own take on it and my own personal feelings about it, and my backstory as an ex-Christian, and just fleshing out this world that I'm very fascinated with. And I'll probably do more stuff with zombies and bioweapons and that sort of stuff. But this will, and this is important, this is not in the same reality as Cade due to conflicting lore. Because in Cade's version, he takes over Moon Zero and becomes friends with Kali, and he makes sure that Moon Zero stays on its course. And Fish can't exist if Cade does, due to conflicting lore between the two. So it's a separate reality that Cade has been in. He's aware it exists, but he doesn't threat to it, due to the fear of what that virus could do to him, Midnight, or anyone else is close to. So that's pretty much all that I can remember. Remember. This is gonna be uncut, by the way, so this is gonna be so fucking messy, but I love doing this, just rambling to myself in the dead of night. But I do want to mention that I have names for the employees that will be important to Fish's lore, and yeah, the Fish Protocol. I didn't go into that, so we're gonna go into that. The Fish Protocol is basically a bioweapon that was designed to target specific individuals. Now, Fish is called Fish because her tag, because I tagged all of the experimental like prototypes, is f158, spelling out fish, which is kind of funny, you know. She's the 15th of the Fish Protocol, and the fish is an acronym for find, infect, subdue, and hold or hang. Her body literally has the virus inside of her, like pumping, and I kind of want to give her a better design to convey that. I was thinking something like Nemesis-ish, but I also want her to kind of have the furry, because, you know, I'm a furry artist. I like to do furry art, which is, you know. Another part is that Fish will canonically end the lives of the Moon Zero employees, and that's where her story has... Like, it's not the end of a story. I don't think I'm gonna kill her off, but that's the arc of the beginning. And I'm probably gonna do more with that later on, but for now, that is what I have with her. So, vote on who you want next. Do you want Loki, Crowley, or anyone else? Let me know down in the comments down below. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit that like button. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!